In part 3 of the digestive system series of videos, I'm going to go over the basics of the control of the digestive system, how it maintains homeostasis, and the different two basic types of digestion. And then this will lead us into going to what happens when you swallow and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so this is just a general overview of this topic. Maybe. Here we go. All right, so we've talked about maintain homeostasis. You have nervous and hormonal control. Same thing happens. The digestive system is controlled by both the nervous system and hormones. So we have a short reflex. We've talked about reflexes when we talked about the nervous system. It's an automatic motor response to a stimulus. There are both, in this case, short reflexes and long reflexes. So short reflexes means a change happens and then there's a nervous response, but it doesn't go to your brain. All right, it's just a local control. So it may be in your small intestine, there may be a stretch. That stretch causes a local change. So again, stretch receptors, there may be chemical changes, respond to a local change and can cause smooth muscle contraction. Okay, so remember, your digestive system is smooth muscle. So it's going to be autonomic control, autonomic control. So this is just a local change. Something happens locally and that causes a local change. So you're not involving the brain, you're not involving a large portion of the nervous system. A long reflex is going to, when you're dealing with something that happens throughout, it goes to the brain. That's the part, okay, that's the part that's going to be the central nervous system. So you have a much larger reflex that goes to a larger portion of the digestive system and heads to what you typically think of as the nervous system. So again, we've talked about how the parasympathetic, right, the parasympathetic is in control, okay, is in control. So this involves, again, what you typically think of as a reflex. Think of that picture we did. You get a change, goes to the central nervous system, spinal cord or brain, and then a response is sent back. That is more typical of what a long reflex looks like. There is a very strong connection between your digestive system and your brain. There's a connection there. They're actually finding more and more research looking at what your gut, okay, your gut brain connection, what's going on in your gut, whether what you're consuming, eating, or how it's responding, can deal with depression, can deal with autism and those kind of things. So there is a connection, a strong connection between the gut and the brain. Hormonal control, okay, it's a hormone factory. So we're going to talk about several hormones. We're going to talk about this happens, you get a reflex and then you get a response. But we're also going to talk about all these different hormones that are involved in controlling the digestive system, controlling the breakdown that are necessary for the breakdown of nutrients. So we'll talk about the nervous system and how it responds. And we'll also talk about these hormones. So again, just like we've talked about with every other system, nervous system, hormone system, are controlling what's going on in the digestive system. There are two types of digestion. There is mechanical digestion and there is chemical digestion. Mechanical digestion is when you break a piece of food or something down into smaller parts, but you're not changing the chemistry of it. So imagine a cookie. Okay, so your cookie has fats, carbohydrates in it. We'll say proteins just to make us feel good, but you chew the cookie. So the cookie goes from a big cookie into little pieces of cookie, but you're not changing the carbohydrates, you're not changing the fats, you're not changing the proteins. So the most common form of mechanical digestion, the easiest one to understand, is chewing. Okay, mastication, which is a technical word for chewing. So you're taking something big and making it small, but you're not changing its chemistry. Another example, which we'll come back to, is bile. Bile comes from your liver, your gallbladder. What it does in your small intestine, it takes big globs of fat and makes it into small globs of fat. But it's not changing the chemistry of the fat. It's still a fat. It's still a triglyceride. Okay, it's still a triglyceride. So those are your two main examples of mechanical digestion. Chemical digestion is when you're breaking bonds, you're making big molecules into small molecules, and then we can take those small molecules and absorb them. So we're taking the starch that we've talked about and the glycogen and breaking it down into glucose. We're taking the triglyceride and breaking it into glycerol, into 3 fatty acids. We're taking a protein and breaking it down into those individual amino acids. That is chemical digestion, okay? That is chemical digestion. And that's going to be accomplished by enzymes. So let's talk about enzymes. Most enzymes end in ASE. We talked about OSE being a sugar. ASE is going to be an enzyme. Enzymes may also end in IN, like pepsin. All right, so IN and ASE are the two parts of the word that you're looking at to tell you that it's an enzyme. Enzymes are proteins. They are proteins that have very unique shapes. Those shapes allow them to come in and break a big molecule into a small molecule. You'll see how this example here, sucrase, is going to break down sucrose. It has to fit. It has to fit and then break it down. So what enzymes do is they speed up chemical reactions. These chemical reactions would occur anyways, but they would occur at a much slower rate without the presence of enzymes. So you can eat a steak dinner with a baked potato. You would break those nutrients down chemically, but it would take days for that to happen. With the presence of enzymes, that can all happen within 24 hours. So we can get access to those nutrients much faster. Okay. Like I said, they have very distinct shapes that allow them to function. So if you change the shape of an enzyme, it will not work. Okay, it will not work. So the shape is very important. The key to the shape is that the pH of the area that it's in and the temperature of the area it's in are going to keep it and maintain that proper shape. If you change the pH or you change the temperature, you're going to what's called denature or change the shape of that enzyme, and it will not function. So we're going to talk about how acidic the stomach is. It has a very low pH. We'll talk about how it tolerates that also, but it has a very low pH. The enzymes in the stomach, they are designed to be in the proper shape when the pH is very low. If you change the pH of the stomach, then you're going to change the shape of the enzymes in the stomach and they are not going to function. So the shape of an enzyme is very important. Okay. So there's an optimal temperature and optimal pH at which each enzyme will function. If you change that, okay, I know you can't see the bottom line here, but if you change the shape or pH, it will denature or change the shape of an enzyme and it will not function efficiently. This is also one of the dangers of a high fever. With a high fever, obviously your temperature goes up. That's going to start to denature not only the enzymes of your digestive system, but the neurotransmitters of your brain and all those different proteins in your body, and they will not function properly. So enzymes are proteins. They speed up chemical reactions. Their shape is very important. You have to maintain the shape. You maintain the shape, it will function. If you change the pH or temperature, you can change the shape and then it will not work efficiently. So here's sucrose. You have the enzyme sucrase. It comes in with the perfect shape. It fits in like a lock and key. After the enzyme, you still have the enzyme left over. And now you've gone from a disaccharide to monosaccharides. And sucrose is made of fructose and glucose. These can then be absorbed and then used as energy or stored if necessary. Again, most enzymes are going to end in ASE or IN. This just shows you another version picture. Here's the enzyme, here's the substrate. In the case it was sucrose. Comes in, it fits like a lock and key. The enzyme is then going to break up that disaccharide into monosaccharides and you end up with the products. Okay, so that's the end of this video. Again, just a basic overview of what controls nervous system and hormones, and then what enzymes do and the role they play in the digestive system. Look at the objectives, make sure you can answer those based on the information you took out of this video. All right, that is the end.